All right, what is up, YouTube family? Welcome back to an incredible live stream. Today, I am joined by none other than the master of Mirandus, co-founder of Gala Games, Michael McCarthy, who has agreed to come and, say hi to all of us and update us on some of the progress behind Mirandus. So hello, Michael. Thanks for joining.
Hi guys, how's it going?
This is so fun. So, just so that you guys know who are watching, if possibly any of you guys have not been watching my channel before, I am super bullish on what Gala Games is doing, on what Michael McCarthy is doing, and I have actually, I'm not just a content creator, but I also invest in all of these games, and I have put literally hundreds of thousands of dollars into Mirandus NFTs. I am so
What did
hyped
you
for
get,
this.
Jake? What
I,
did you get?
I have a town of the Duke. I have
Ooh.
three majestic buildings. I have a majestic forge, a majestic weapon shop, a majestic stable. I also have a large jeweler for that supply chain from the forge into the weapon shop. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm super invested and hyped in this game because
Oh, that's
I
cool.
see the revolutionary potential of it. But guys, that does not mean I'm not going to ask hard questions and the questions that I really am curious about, because I think the point of this interview is I want to learn about your vision, some of your thoughts about some of this, just get a better idea about the project and some of the questions that just I haven't been able to ask. And I know that everyone is gonna love learning more about that. So I wanted to just start off, though, just for anyone who isn't familiar with who Michael McCarthy is, talking about some of your background, and how you got into game development and world building. So why don't you start there? How did Michael McCarthy, young Michael McCarthy, first decide he wanted to get into game development?
Oh man, I was not trying to get into game development um, at all when I was young. I played games all the time, and I loved them when I was young. And I found, I mean, I was on that Atari and that Coleco,
Hmm.
and but over time, it kind of turned into the Apple IIe and like Bard's Tale and
Hmm.
you know, but I was always playing games. So I loved it, and I loved being on the computer. I thought the computer was cool, and it was magic, and you could make stuff happen and make pixels on the screen. And I just thought it
Hmm.
was awesome, dude.
Hmm.
I loved being on the computer. I thought it was a magical puzzle to solve to get something to happen. So I got into computer art, and then I went to Ringling School of Art and Design.
Hmm.
They were the only school in the country at the time that had a computer animation degree,
Okay.
um, because they were the only one accredited to do it, because they had Silicon graphics machines running
Hmm.
Alias Wavefront, and
Uh-huh.
like that was a big deal. Um, so, I mean, I went there. It was a private school. It was a great school. It was awesome. It
Hmm.
was an awesome experience. And it was super expensive, dude. So I wasn't trying to like get into games. I was trying to pay those school loans.
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
happy working anywhere that I could get a job at. So between my I think on spring break my junior year, I had my demo reel. Me and my buddy went out to California with my
Hmm.
VHS tape demo reel,
Uh-huh.
taking it old school, dude, and just dropped demo reels off to anyone, knocked on every door we could, some game companies, some movie companies, and dropped off like 23 and hello, sir, and just trying to get in the door,
Hmm. Hmm.
and no one gave a shit, Jake.
Yeah.
Everyone, it was like the last day there, and we just thought something would pop and be cool.
Hmm.
But it was our last day there, feeling kind of discouraged, and Interplay Productions called,
Okay.
and they gave us like a summer internship. And
Hmm.
anyway, I mean, I went out there, and I was an intern at Interplay back in like '96.
Wow.
But
Yeah. That was a year after I was born.
yeah, I mean, but I think the hustle's still the same, right?
Hmm.
It's like you're
Hmm.
trying to get a skill, get an education some way, and just get
Yeah.
out there and just get your foot in the door. So I love video games. I ended up I love that I got to work in games. That's really
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
But it wasn't my intention to. It was more
Yeah.
like, man, I need to pay these school loans off,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and I love using the computer. So if I ended up doing something else, that probably would have been okay. But I'm
Mhm.
glad I'm in games, man. I think it's the best.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So talk a little bit then. I'm sure it's a long story about how you went from this internship now to founding Gala Games. And I know there's a lot of things that happened in between that. And like Gala's not even the first company that you've like tried to start up, right? Like there was, I believe, another one that you started before. So yeah, explain your journey kind of now from then where the story left off to now.
Like what's the Reader's Digest? What's like the quick version of that,
Yeah, I
dude?
don't know, like maybe a 4 minute, 5 minute recap max.
So I mean, I loved RPGs. I
Hmm.
ended up Interplay gave me a full time offer. Like if you get the opportunity to have an internship out there, guys, like always take it. A
Hmm.
lot of times it does turn into full time work. So I started working at Interplay. I was working on a bunch of different games, but I really wanted to go over to Black Isle where
Hmm.
Fergus Urquhart was, and I mean, a lot of my old buddies there that I just really love and respect. That's
Hmm.
where, yeah, I mean, that's where they're making Planescape Torment. That's where they're working on Stone Keep. So I mean, I
Hmm.
wanted to be in the RPG world.
Yeah.
So I went over there and I worked on RPGs for Black Isle for a while, and then I went over to Troika Games and worked on games there. But everyone was a generalist at that time, and you never make a game by yourself. Like anyone that says I made, or if you even catch me saying I made, I didn't
Hmm.
make anything, dude. You're
Hmm.
working with a team of great people,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like making a soup. Everyone has to be like the right ingredients, and
Hmm.
and then greatness can happen. But
Hmm.
I worked on a lot of games: Atomic Bomberman, Starfleet Academy, Fallout 2, Stone Keep 2, um, Die by the Sword. My God, I can't even remember them.
Hmm.
Icewind Dale, started to work on Icewind Dale for a while, and that's when I left to go over to Troika Games to work with those guys on Arcanum and Temple of Elemental Evil, and
Hmm.
even some Vampire the Masquerade.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, eventually, I mean, I got really into outsourcing for a little bit because Troika was dying, and if you're running a game studio out there, cost was always a big deal,
Hmm.
and outsourcing was kind of the advent of outsourcing and a way to get stuff done cheaper, and I thought that was a bit of a miracle.
Hmm.
So I was in outsourcing for a little while, and then I ended up at Zynga and got into social games,
Hmm.
and
Is that when you met Eric for the first time?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's where I met Eric.
Hmm.
Yeah, Eric was in some of the weekly roadmap meetings where you would discuss your game's metrics and
Hmm.
how it's performing and expected versus actual results. And
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a tough environment.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
Eric's a tough CEO. He
Yeah.
is.
So that's crazy. You just have like so much experience in the gaming space. You've worked on so many different projects that I grew up playing, which is just so cool being able to talk to you now. But let's move on to Mirandus now because Mirandus is like such an exciting and revolutionary idea. So, what makes Mirandus so different from all of these projects that you've worked on prior to this? And what gave you the vision or ambition to say it's time to create a brand new massive multiplayer online role-playing game on the blockchain?
So I think Mirandus has always been, I think it's just always been the dream, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just always been like if you play that D&D, that paper and pencil, that experience where you're with a group of friends and you're adventuring and it's dangerous and amazing. All
Mm-hmm.
of those games throughout my career and everyone that loved RPGs was trying to recreate that
Mm-hmm.
on the computer. Um, and it's very ambitious to try to do that. I don't know if, I mean, I think maybe we're getting there now from a technology standpoint, that it's a possibility, but
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted and fantasized about how, just teleporting back in time and living in that medieval fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
What would it be like and
Yeah,
feel like? And,
totally.
and so, I mean, that's really I think the spirit behind Mirandus, and I think why I'm so excited to develop it. What an incredible opportunity is in your life and your career to even get a
Mm-hmm.
chance to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's kind of the soul and the spirit behind it, and I think everyone on the team shares that. And all my great RPG friends and colleagues out there, we're all trying to do the same thing, man. Is just
Mm-hmm.
teleport you somewhere, make you believe you were there. And I think a classic medieval fantasy world is just so awesome and cool. What an amazing experience that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, why I like the idea of if you just take the soul and spirit of if you teleported back to a place like that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what are the things that come out of it? And what
Mm-hmm.
comes out of it immediately is danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like danger comes out of it immediately. And that's what really got our minds spinning on why don't I feel that anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't games have that anymore? I don't really feel when I'm playing other RPGs or MMOs, I feel the grind.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm spinning that slot, I'm pulling that slot machine wheel and hoping to get a rare,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't feel like I'm there. And I'm not scared to walk into a dungeon
Mm-hmm.
because there's no penalties anymore. Everyone just
Yeah.
wants to kind of keep you in the grind, keep you in the grind, keep you in
Mm-hmm.
the grind. But no, I want to make a game where it be, again, if you teleported back in time and there was an entrance to a dungeon that you and your friends stumbled upon, you
Mm-hmm.
would not run inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be like, oh crap,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you
and
know.
I think like what is so cool about Mirandus to me, because I played a lot of MMOs growing up, and I always dreamed that, like the time that I spent in this world building wealth for my character actually could matter to me in real life. And that like if I did get a crazy lucky drop or like worked really hard and built up some wealth for my character, like maybe I could actually pay rent with it, or something like that. Like that level of having a true financial system because of crypto technology, all of a sudden that brings up, I feel like, the level of realism in a game world like 10 times or 100 times, multiple orders of magnitude, what any previous game could offer us.
And that's kind of, I think that RPG fantasy world dream has always existed and we're really
Mm-hmm.
going for it. The next layer to it is letting players have and control the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the deeds and the buildings. We don't know exactly what players are going to do, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to commit to that. Like you can't have all the answers. It's not all in a spreadsheet and in a
Mm-hmm.
box. We're going to let it go a little wild and let players explore, and they're going to control the economy. We had a big talk today about iron.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
what does iron mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things as game developers you have to really like break yourself out of, I think, is stop saying game and stop being afraid of giving the players true control, letting them own their own things.
Mm-hmm.
If something comes off the Gala chain and goes to the secondary market, that's a drain in your economy. Something's getting pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
What if there's just not enough? What if there's just not Where's all the iron? What if people take all the iron away?
Yeah.
People, you want to control it because you think that's why the game's going to be good because it's all in your Excel sheet, it all pencils out. But I
Mm-hmm.
actually think, and the more we talk about it is let's just stop right there for a second and say, what if some industrious players go out of their way to try to control the iron market?
Mm-hmm.
Does
Mm-hmm.
that make Mirandus a crappy game?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just adds a layer of depth and complexity to it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes having weapons and shields harder to come by, but more incredible when you own one. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, you know, think of everything that does to the economy and
Yeah.
the market and the
Uh,
scarcity of items in game.
yeah.
And to me, that doesn't ruin the story. That's why this story exists.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why players hopefully will love this game.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I want to dive deeper into some of that for sure. But before we move out of this first section, kind of about your background and kind of the stage of development now, how big is the team that's working on Mirandus currently, and how much hiring has been getting done by Gala? Because so just so you guys who are watching know, Gala is a pretty big team, but there is a specific team within Gala, right, that's working on Mirandus, and your guys' focus is entirely on Mirandus, or almost entirely on Mirandus, correct?
That's correct. There's game teams, and game companies kind of generally work this way. I love, I'm going to say it out loud. Anyone who's playing bingo, who's playing like, I love the Discord bingo, like when Jason and I talk, but how the sausage is made is
Uh-huh.
like one of my like Mike McCarthy bingos. But it's true,
Yes.
guys. I like sharing with you how things work and what the process of games are. And a lot of game companies, and I think we're very similar, is you have a dedicated game team, and then you have like central resources at the company that help the game team out, like marketing is a central resource or product management is a central resource. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
as far as the size of the team goes, those are usually like tightly held numbers. um, but I don't know. I mean, hell, I'll just
Uh,
so we're hiring like crazy. We
okay.
know we need to build a large team, but you
Mm-hmm.
want to build an appropriate team and you want to build the right team. So,
Hmm.
everyone on our team is awesome. I think we'll probably by the end of the year be getting to the 35 or 40 mark,
Okay.
is kind of our goal. And I think we can get a first release of Mirandus out to people, with probably, we're going to try to stay between, 50, 60 to 100. Um,
Okay.
I think 100 is about the most I would want to be.
Hmm.
And if you hire the right people and you have the right tools, you actually can move mountains with very small numbers of people. Like,
Hmm.
if anyone out there's played Arcanum, it's a pretty big game.
Hmm.
It's a pretty big game. There's a lot of terrain to walk around on, a lot of maps and quests and cool stuff like that. But that was built by 10 people.
Hmm.
So you can do it if you're smart and your tools are awesome. Um, and I think that's kind of what we're targeting. We really want to kind of handcraft Mirandus.
Hmm.
Don't want to kick out like, oh, hey, here's 50 zones of regurgitated crap. We really want every kind of zone of the game to be kind of a cool new story. I'm hoping,
Hmm.
a bit like getting a bit of a module or, you
Hmm.
know, something neat and interesting. I want every zone to feel different. And we've talked about this a lot too, that,
Hmm.
if it's just an obvious grind and monsters all do the same thing with just like you know, a little change to their skills or abilities, and that doesn't feel too exciting. What's
Hmm.
exciting is that every zone has a little element of mystery. The zones have, um, like Patrick Rothfuss' Name of the Wind. Have you guys read like
Yeah,
have you
I
read that?
love that series. I love that series.
So good.
Yeah, it's super good. Yeah,
Or like
this.
coming up into a glen and there's a Felurian on a rock singing.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
where's that stuff in games
Yeah.
these days? Like, where's like a mysterious encounter or something that was very interesting or strange to see or find?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm hoping the zones have a lot of that too, such that it's a bit of an experience every time you can kind of push forward into the world of Mirandus.
Hmm.
Um, that's one of the things that we're targeting.
Cool. So if let's move on to the second part now, and I change it around. So let's talk about gameplay next. So gameplay in the world of Mirandus. Is there another game that exists now that you think feels kind of similar to how Mirandus is going to feel to like adventure around inside of?
I don't know, man. There's a few things we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if there's a direct parallel. It's always very good when you're making a game to say, oh, it's going to play like this.
Mm-hmm.
Even internally, you'll have a couple games that'll be like, yeah, let's just kind of do it like that and that and that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple things that make me feel like we need to innovate a little bit on the experience. And some
Mhm.
of this is kind of, our design pillars. And these are things when you're making a game, it's like, hey, let's put 3, 4 pillars down. This is what the game is going to stand on. And one of the things that I want the game to stand on is that we're going to simplify the experience.
Mhm.
So I don't want a ton of UI because the game just starts to become all numbers to you. I want it to feel like you're there and it's immersive.
Mhm.
So we want to simplify the act of playing the game, not the depth of the game that you'll encounter,
Mhm.
but how can we make it feel more like if Nintendo, was trying to make something that ages 8 through 80 everyone could play,
Mhm.
a world that you could step into where it's intuitive and you kind of get it as you're standing there, so it doesn't need a ton of UI and explanation.
Mhm.
So, that already to me says it's kind of the antithesis of other MMOs that are out there. I want you just to kind of come in, walk around, and know that you can kind of feel and touch this world in a
Mhm.
simpler way. So
Mhm.
that that to me is a little newer. Um, and then you have the blockchain angle, dude. So combine coming into the world and having it be maybe easier to just move around and poke at things.
Mhm.
But then we have death, and adventure is one of our pillars, right? Let's bring adventure back. And adventure means risk.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Okay.
this goes,
Yeah, let's talk about risk a little bit because so you kind of foreshadowed this at the beginning of the interview
yeah,
where you talked about how you want it to really feel like there's something at stake when you're playing. So that like if
yes,
you're in danger, like you actually feel frightened in real life. And I think a big part of that, beyond the realism that exists on the economic side of things, is that death actually matters, that your character dying is a big deal. And I know that there's already been some conversations about death in Mirandus. And like I made a video about death in Mirandus after your interview with Bitbender, where you're like, we're still trying to figure this out. We want it to be a
yeah.
really big deal when you die. But how can we do that but not make the game like unapproachable? So have you guys thought about that more? Have you made any decisions there?
Yeah, I think we've made a few decisions, and I can share that with you. Definitely a bit of announcement, for you, brother, here in
Yeah,
this
a
on the
leak on
live
on-chain
video.
gaming. Let's go.
Yeah. um, so again, I want to start this by saying, adventure is the key, and the reason if you and I were teleported back in time, if we saw a dungeon entrance that we would not run in, is because I don't want to die.
Yeah.
That is really scary. If
Mm.
we saw someone charging into that dungeon, you and I would be like, damn, what the
Yeah.
holy crap, what is going on?
Mm.
Um, and I certainly had that feeling in EverQuest. I think EverQuest gave me that feeling because when you died, there were penalties. So
Mm. Mm.
I think I think I think where we're steering the ship right now, man, and a line that maybe a stake in the ground or a line in the sand that we can say is that we are going to have cemeteries in Mirandus.
Mm.
I think there actually might have been a couple of those that got dropped to node owners, but we're going to have cemeteries in Mirandus. Cemeteries are the only place in Mirandus that you can be resurrected if you die.
Okay.
That is it.
Mm.
If you die, you are essentially going to be stuck in the netherworld. And I don't mean for 5 minutes, Jake. Okay. I mean, like, you might be out there and eventually your body will reconstitute and come back at
Okay.
the cemetery, maybe nearest to your death. But cemetery owners, if you make a donation to them,
Mm.
it's like you can be pulled back from your purgatory
Okay.
immediately.
Mm.
And depending on how the cemetery is upgraded and depending on maybe the size of your donation that the cemetery holder will be in control of, you
Mm.
can come back immediately and suffer no penalties,
Okay.
uh, no penalties at all. So you will reconstitute and you can play. If you come back and you have a sickness,
Mm.
which we're going to employ, um, you can get that healed at your temple for sure.
Okay.
So the temples will be tied into that. But, they'll essentially be this experience where you will come back at the cemetery and you're either crawling out of the mud with like, larvae dripping out your nose, coughing,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have sickness. You will
Mm-hmm.
likely have lost experience points. You're
Okay.
kind of back, but your mind is fogged.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can emerge through the white marble and golden mausoleum that the cemetery person upgraded their stuff to,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be able to come back completely unscathed
Okay.
uh, in
S-
every way. So
So,
cemeteries are where you come back to life.
mm-hmm.
And we have been holding on to those because we wanted to be clearer about death before we put them up on the store, but we are going to put them up on the store. And I think from a play to earn perspective, it's like the most obvious, clear
Mm-hmm.
building maybe that we've ever released.
Yeah.
Uh,
And if you're trying to play to earn in Mirandus as an adventurer and you die and you have to pay a lot in order to play again, that's very punishing to your play to earn
well,
journey.
yeah, I mean, you'll come back. Everyone will come back. There's no question. You'll be
Yeah.
able to play.
How long can you be lost in the Nether if you don't have any coins to spare to try and come back faster?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta get more hardcore as the game progresses, like everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
so, early players probably won't notice anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just, but the deeper and deeper you get into your journey, and I like the narrative and the fiction that you are becoming from a, level one kind of simpleton, maybe new to the world of Mirandus, you are becoming incredibly complex with gear and skills and
Mm-hmm.
abilities. So it's kind of like the more complex you become, the harder it is to reconstitute, and maybe the greater the penalties will be. There
Mm-hmm.
has to be
Yeah.
additional risk and pushback in the system the higher up you go, or else there's no such thing as heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And we want heroes in Mirandus. If you see someone, and again, like EverQuest, versus World of Warcraft and some of the other games, it's like when you saw someone really high level in a game where if you die, you can
Mm-hmm.
go down in experience points or there's a great penalty.
Yeah.
There's that unbelievable respect and awe that you see when you see a high level player. You're like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, how did they do that? Like
Mm-hmm.
so, um, and there's other announcements too, guys, that are massive and tie the cemetery together and every building and deed. And I would dare to say the entire world of Mirandus and how it works coming in the next couple of weeks. And this is something that we've been working really hard towards, is that
Mm-hmm.
we have to lock down the design and how the high level pieces function. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that all of you guys want to know and need answers to too, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
guys are kind of on this journey for us. And as we are stitching it together, um, that's when we'll get the information out to you and know that there's some big announcements coming in the next couple weeks. And there's some big announcements certainly coming at Galaverse too.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Are you
Yeah.
going to Galaverse?
I am still actually up in the air about it. I just traveled like 3 weeks ago and got COVID, and
Oh,
it ruined like 2.5 weeks. Honestly, I'm probably immune up for a while, and I don't know. Maybe maybe it's worth it,
well,
but
I'm excited to meet
yeah.
people at Galaverse, and
Yeah,
Galaverse
no,
is
that's like the biggest
great.
reason I need to go is just so that I can meet you and Bitbender and everyone, and honestly, a lot of the Gala Games fans that it would be super fun to meet everyone. Yeah.
And it gives it kind of a one-on-one. It gives you kind of like, some moments to sit with us and really dig deeper into the design
Hmm.
and what our thoughts are too, which is
Yeah.
cool. It's kind of hard for,
Yeah.
to encapsulate it all. But
Hmm.
yeah, man, cemeteries are here. Cemeteries are where you resurrect. Cemeteries are a building. So, again, deed owners, like, put your deeds somewhere cool
Hmm.
where you think, maybe players will want to be.
Hmm.
And cemetery owners, find a nice spot in town. I think every good town's going to want one there,
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So First of all, I have to say I love the idea of making this a punishing game to die in. I feel like if any game is really looking for that realism to kind of become, I don't know, like the Ready Player One oasis, it's Mirandus. And I would just love if you guys, don't pull the hardcore punches. Like let the game be a bit hardcore. I think that players who really love the game will really, really appreciate that. And then players who are new, like maybe it doesn't have to be as hardcore when you're early on learning about the game and that kind of thing. So you can kind of have the best of both worlds, where it doesn't have to be super punishing for new players who are kind of just casually dabbling, but where people who are super into the game and really love it, it's super hardcore when you die and very punishing. I think that's a good design idea.
I think if it's easy to control and the penalties are clear, then you're making choices about, I think I see some goblins over there around a fire.
Yeah.
And you're really thinking about, all right, what do we do?
Yeah.
How should we approach it? Can I lure one of them away? It just makes the entire combat experience like different and feel different. You feel like you really want to coordinate with your friends
Hmm.
and drive a great result, because you know that something's on the line
Hmm.
if you screw it up.
Yeah.
It's like if Leroy
No
Jenkins showed
Leroy
up at the
Jenkins.
party.
Yeah. uh,
um, but yeah, man, that's kind of the hopes.
uh,
That's the hopes, and that's what we're
all
setting
right.
off for.
So, kind of playing on the same theme, you've talked about how you want there to be epic monsters inside the world of Mirandus. Is it possible that there will be some bosses that literally are not killed for years, like actual real years, that like a boss people might never figure out how to defeat it, or how difficult will some of these be?
Absolutely, because that's just cool.
It
I
is
mean, it's
cool.
like, what if there was a zone? What if there was a zone and there was just this massive creature in it?
Hmm.
But one of the things, here's something that came up today. We were developing and talking about some stuff. We've got um, there's so we have a new build coming out to you guys. It's going to be released around Galaverse too.
Cool, cool.
Um, which I don't know. I think, have we said that yet?
I
Can you,
think I think that might be a leak.
we can shit
Got,
again. There it
there's
is. It's not.
another
But yeah,
playtest coming, guys. Let's go.
well, that's right, man. We always count on you guys to help us break Mirandus, and we like to just show you the progress we're doing in a place where you can kind of walk around and tap on stuff. So, there's some new builds coming at Galaverse that
Mhm.
you guys are going to be able to play. But one of the things that we talked about today was that it's really cool to think that the creatures have something more to them.
Mhm.
Another thing, when I play MMOs, it's like there's no story to these creatures.
Mhm.
Meaning that if you could observe a troll or a goblin,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you would observe? Now, if I'm playing a regular MMO, am I like looking down in a room and there's three of them standing there, and there's the mage in the center, and then there's like two fighters, and there's like a ranged guy maybe?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not learning anything. There's nothing interesting about that active observation, except
Mhm.
for, that maybe I'm going to go in there and get some loot
Mhm.
but I love the idea of an epic level monster in one of these zones.
Mhm.
And if you get near it, maybe it doesn't even care. Why would it care? You're ants to them.
Mhm.
And what does it do? Well, it probably does epic level monster stuff, man. Maybe he,
Mhm.
what does he do? What does his life look like? What does he
Yeah.
do in the morning? Like,
Mhm.
I think it's interesting to observe stuff. And MDK actually was brought up. I don't know, MDK was a super old game,
Mhm.
but you were a sniper and you had a telescope, and there was this moment where you like penetrate an alien like building, let's
Mhm.
say, and through your telescope you could see really far away, and there were the aliens
Mhm.
having like a dance party. They're just
Yeah.
having like a casual dance party somewhere. It was just, but that's
Yeah.
interesting.
All of
Like,
a sudden, it humanizes them a little bit. Like, oh,
they
they have
do.
lives. Yeah.
They do things,
Mhm.
it's like so we really want there to be I think it's good to start if you're saying, oh, we're going to put a monster in a zone. It's like
Hmm.
start thinking about like, well, what's the narrative behind that?
Yeah.
Why are they there?
Hmm.
Why do they like it there? What do
Hmm.
they do there?
Yeah.
Like, what are they? Start there and then build out what it looks like. What does their little layer look like? What is it they do? They
Hmm.
probably all should have a little bit of a thing that that interests them.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's really
I could
cool.
go
And
super deep on that,
yeah,
dude. But
I love the idea that the world is alive and like yeah, like the mobs actually have lives and you can witness them actually living in the world, not just, standing there and it's like, oh, you were just programmed to stand there. Cool. That's not that interesting. All right. So I have a couple of rapid fire questions I want to ask you about gameplay. And then in the last 20 minutes here, we'll move into some questions about the economics behind Mirandus. So some of the
okay.
just rapid fire questions. Will there be proximity chat in Mirandus?
Yeah, again, we're trying to make this immersive experience. And so absolutely, um, we want to push for that pretty hard. You
Okay.
you can talk to the person next to
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
and I love that. I think it works. I think it works pretty well. It definitely changes the game.
Hmm.
Different languages around the world become a bit of a barrier, but I don't know. Again, it's like, does it make the game worse or does it make it richer and more interesting? And
Hmm.
I think it makes it more interesting if
Yeah.
you're walking up and talking to people
Hmm.
and communicating, asking them questions. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think it definitely makes it feel more like a real metaverse too, or yeah, like when you can walk around and you're in like VR chat and like you can hear everyone chatting and somebody's telling jokes and some people are laughing. Like that's the way to really get immersed in it. All right, cool. So then, second rapid fire question: will Mirandus have a third person adventure view for those who like get motion sick, for example?
Ooh, this is a biggie, man.
Yeah.
So we're starting with first person because it's really immersive.
Hmm.
And we're starting with first person because, I think we feel and the community too that it's that metaverse concept is really powerful and awesome. And if you're getting
Hmm.
transported back in time and you're there, it VR is getting cheaper and cheaper. It's like if we stay first person
Hmm.
and VR gets better for everyone, like we really might be teeing up a really super immersive
Hmm.
experience, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that's a cool path to walk down, right?
Yeah. And I think that's
And
definitely the
over
main
here,
path to go down.
so the little devils, the little like
Yeah.
the voices in our heads, I think, in my head too, is we're if we walk down that path, but say, oh, there's but you can also be third person if you want.
Mhm.
The second you can go third person, you really are opening up a more strategic feeling game
Mhm.
and you can see behind you.
Yeah.
So now anyone who enables, no one would ever play in a million years in first person or
Yeah.
in a VR headset because tactically it's superior to see things that are all around you at all
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
We're going to have the penalties for death be severe,
Yeah.
right?
So,
So if
yeah.
you're a player, right? So if you're a player and the penalties are severe, you really want a complete full grasp of what's happening in the
Mhm.
world and around you such that you can make the best choice you can.
Mhm.
And sometimes first person combat, especially in melee, gets really tricky and kind of difficult, especially if
Mhm.
something's circling around you. And
Yeah.
uh, so it's a very difficult decision to
Mhm.
make. um,
Okay,
it is
so
from a development standpoint, just so you know, it's
mhm.
you can kind of tap buttons and pull the camera in and out and get a feel for what it's like to play the game. Third
Mhm.
person also, you can see all your character and it's kind of neat to see them, but
Mhm.
it's not immersive. So
Yeah.
I want to steer the ship towards first person
Mhm.
and let's just see how the game and the economy goes. And if it's if we need to give people more tactical control over their character, then
Hmm.
we will have to concede that. We will have to concede that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
just as like a gamer's perspective, I love the idea. I have 3 VR headsets. I love the idea of VR gaming. I've played some adventure games in VR now that were just so fun and so immersive. At the same time, I feel like the more options, kind of the better. And the way that people like the way that I kind of imagine you can interact with Mirandus eventually is the app that you guys have talked about will be like one possible way to interact
mhm.
with Mirandus. Then just playing it like a normal computer game and first person or third person jumping back and forth could be another way to interact with it. And then going fully immersive, like immersed in VR, could be another way. So all of a sudden now you have 3 different ways to interact with the same metaverse, which is pretty cool and opens up the maximum number of potential players. And I feel like the first person, third person dilemma is bigger if it's player versus player. I feel like in player versus environment, maybe I mean, yeah, when death is really punishing, it still does matter. And like it would hate to like not be able to play in first person just because you have a disadvantage. Like that I guess is what you really want to try and avoid. But who knows, like maybe when you're in a citadel or something and there's no combat, then you can move to third person and kind of walk around the cities in third person and see your character there and kind of see a
That's
bigger, broader
interesting.
version of the world. And there it would be
Yeah,
fine to hop back and forth, you know?
here's another sausage note. It's like developing assets for first person versus like a little bit more of a strategic view or a third person.
Hmm.
There's also that gets really tricky too.
Hmm.
If it's first person and we know it's first person, the
Yeah.
scale of the levels and your ability to see things and look up and look down, and you kind of make your level a little different, because if
Hmm.
you pull that camera up 10, 15, 20 feet, are you intersecting with the polys that are in the level?
Yeah.
Do you have to hide the roof if it's up in a certain way, or
Hmm.
kind of design your assets such that if the camera, cast a ray between the camera and the character and fades stuff out,
Hmm.
if it's kind of intersecting or penetrating? And
Yeah.
it kind of gives you the ability to see around corners and be
Hmm.
safe, and
Hmm.
again, it becomes more of a strategic game,
Hmm.
than an immersive first person one. So
Yeah.
it's a really tough call, but I feel like I want to try to keep pushing on an immersive first person
Hmm.
experience, um, for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. So I guess following up on that, I know these are supposed to be quick rapid fire, but following up on that, are you guys like designing Mirandus with VR in mind from the very start? And do you think that it will like the game will initially launch with VR capability, or do you think that's going to be a functionality that's added after?
I think you have to we need to commit to first person for now, because that will at least unlock the possibility that we can be VR in the future.
Hmm.
Hi. Sorry, my son came in. Hi, buddy.
I've been here for a really long time.
Well, we're doing a live stream with Jake. People
Yeah.
are watching.
Hey, he can wave at us.
He just ran out of the room. No, he's
All
back.
right.
Jack
Hi.
wants to be. Hi. Hi, honey.
All right. Last
Um,
question. Sorry. You could finish your thought there.
um, yeah, I don't know, man.
All right. Will Miranda's have fishing? That's an easy one. Or do you not know yet?
I think fishing in games is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun.
Hmm.
And it's fun. I think it's fun because, and I think Mirandus and fishing make a ton of sense.
Hmm.
They make a ton of sense, right? I mean, because exclusive locations or places that are very difficult to get to could have cooler little ponds or lakes or streams.
Hmm.
You can pull more rare things out of it.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think we absolutely should have that.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people are hoping for fishing in Miranda's, so that would be
Yeah.
very cool. All right. do you have a hard stop at the end of the hour, or like if we run 10, 15 minutes over, is would that be okay?
I think we can run slightly over. Wait, hold on.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, check. Because we're about to move into
Checking
the third part
schedule.
about the economy, and I want to know like how many of these questions I should eject off of my list.
I do have I do have a 3 o'clock.
Okay.
I do.
All right. We won't make you too late for that then. Um, all right. One question that I get all the time about the economy of Mirandus is a lot of people say like I cannot afford the buildings or deeds. Is Mirandus still a game that I should be excited about playing? Like, is there going to be anything there for me as a player who doesn't own land, who doesn't own deeds, especially because there are so few of them? So like if you guys are building this game for millions of players eventually, and there's only a couple thousand deeds and buildings, how is the game gonna feel for people that don't own the property?
Well, so I mean, first off, your the deeds and the buildings are there to serve the adventure community.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the only reason they're there, right? So, you know, if you're just a player that, I think people that are owning deeds and people that are owning buildings are um they're into the economy of the game. They're
Hmm.
into the resources. They're into um serving the adventure community by crafting the best goods and the right things for that particular zone.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you're totally in the game if you don't own a building or a deed, because they're there to serve you as an adventurer,
Hmm. It's just
or
like,
as someone. Yeah.
so the way that I've kind of described it, and you could tell me if I'm wrong with this explanation, is the kind of the idea that like Mirandus is an MMO where instead of having non-player characters that are serving you, it's like all of the towns and cities are really owned by real people. And when you buy a sword from a weapon shop, you're doing business with an actual player. And that's kind
That's
of the
right.
difference. But as an adventurer, it might not actually feel that different.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, I think the players will fill the world with the things that the players need and want,
Mm-hmm.
and you will be working with other players to get those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping to avoid NPCs everywhere
Mm-hmm.
that tell you what to do. And the reason is because the second you have that, your mind goes into, now tell me what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
If you start a game and someone's like, hey, 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 over here. Oh, okay. I'm going to go talk to that dude and go do this and I'll give you this. Oh, okay. You do
Mm-hmm.
that 2, 3, 4 times, then suddenly the world is an open world.
Mm-hmm.
It feels strange. It doesn't feel quite right.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you take your mind off of what game you're trying to build and just say, if I teleported back in time and appeared in this location,
Mm-hmm.
what would I do? Where would I go?
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll want to talk to somebody immediately. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be like, okay, I just got here. Hey, can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's one we were talking about the other day. Well, what if there's somebody who kind of leads you astray? Or what if
Yeah.
there's someone that's like, oh, hey, come with me. It's totally cool. I'll show you this place. You'll get all set up. And they lead you back towards some den of the goblins just to
Mm-hmm.
kill you or do something strange. Or, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that, does that make the game worse? I think it's just people.
Yeah.
And there's going to be bad actors and there's going to be good actors and
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be very helpful players and there's probably going to be sneaky weird players out there too. But
Mm-hmm.
the more we start adding rules into the game to prevent people from doing things, the
Mm-hmm.
more it's going to feel like a game and it's
Yeah.
not going to feel like a world they're living in. So
Mm-hmm. Okay. So will NFT items? I'm guessing NFT items are going to be able to get dropped by mobs if they're killed. Is it going to
yeah.
be the same NFT items that are dropping in the world that are also getting created by building owners or minted by building owners, like swords, for example, or will it be unique items that are vanquished from foes that are different from the normal production items, maybe?
Yeah, you just, you can't undermine the player economy by saying go out in the field and kill stuff and you can get swords.
Hmm.
It swords have to come from the players.
Hmm.
So you'll know more about the economy and the world of Mirandus in the coming weeks. We've got some big, cool announcements
Okay.
coming that I think will start tying some of this together for you. But I do think we need to drop rare and unique, interesting, distinct things.
Hmm.
But it would be my preference if those were things that bolstered the economy of the towns and villages.
Hmm.
For instance, let's say there was like a blueprint, if you will, for the evil sword of whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
And now I'm going to have to put that in the game. Everyone's going to be like, "What's the evil sword of whatever, whatever?" But let's say there was like a way that you could assemble that sword,
Hmm.
and it would be this unbelievably powerful sword, that requires all of these incredible ingredients, and ores, and that fuels and feeds the entire economy. But in the hilt, in the center, there's like the eye of the kraken must be in the center of this thing. See,
Uh-huh.
like, now they're dropping something, you're getting something that's unbelievably important, but
Hmm.
it doesn't undermine the economy.
Yeah.
It kind of refuels it, and everyone's aligned about trying to craft
Hmm.
one of these swords.
Yeah.
And what if there's only, like, 2, 3 eyes in the world? Like, I'm
Hmm.
not opposed to deprecating creatures out of the world to ensure scarcity.
Hmm.
This is why we need great tools, and we need the ability to get content in the game quickly.
Hmm.
I think it'd be cool to say there's this creature, and yeah, he might drop something, but he might only appear 10 times.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, how cool would that be,
Yeah.
right?
That
Then
is.
even seeing, and you're lower level, you can't even get near this guy. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter. It's still cool to point over there and be like, oh my God, there he is.
Hmm.
It's still cool to run back to town and be like,
There
I
he
saw
is.
him.
Run away.
Saw him. He's over there. He's over there. He's over there. I
Yeah.
saw him. I know where he is. You
Hmm.
just knowing where he is of incredible value to other players,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah. All right,
So,
that's super cool, and that answered that question a little bit. So this is a question I'm not sure if you can answer immediately. Maybe we'll have to wait for a future announcement. But one of the things that I've wondered about a lot is item deflation in the game, because when there's going to be an economy where players are constantly, after it's all up and running, pushing out more swords and like breeding more horses and all of that, are you guys planning on having items break or like have only a certain number of uses? So maybe if you're using a pickaxe, eventually it breaks, in order to stop the issue that Dota has had where they've had to reset their servers multiple times because eventually there's just way too many items and they all lose value.
all right. So I hate it when things break.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just for sure. Like, so I don't see any world in which you're going to craft something and it's going to break and be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't even think, I don't know what kind of smart contract we'd have to build to even have something like break and be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Would we have something that's like a damage, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like like it can be damaged and therefore lose a little bit of its potency,
Mm-hmm.
and you could have it repaired. That I like.
Mm-hmm.
That I like because depending on how you tune it, it can be reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this armor. I can count on this armor.
Yeah, I meant
And maybe,
Diablo, by the way, not Dota. My bad. Keep going.
yeah, yeah. I kind of figured,
Yeah.
like, I think in Diablo 3,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I think I think it felt reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I'm out there. I've got stuff. It's cool. And
Mm-hmm.
it's only when I'm getting attacked by something incredibly powerful, and I'm kind of overwhelmed and everyone's kicking my butt, that maybe after some period of time it goes to a yellow state or something. And it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to get repaired. So it's about how it's tuned, right?
Yeah.
Like in Breath of the Wild, my God, every time I entered combat, my thing would break. Like whatever I was holding in my hand would like break all the time,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's not fun.
Yeah,
So
I think like if something
yeah,
breaks,
go ahead.
it would have to be very clear to like see how much utility it has left. And also
Yeah,
anything sold on the market would have to clearly show how much utility was left in that thing that you were selling, just so that
exactly.
buyers would know, okay, I probably have like so many combats left with this before. I mean, maybe you could repair it to stop it from breaking.
Great point, Jake.
But
That's
as
tricky,
long
right?
as it's yeah, but as long as it's visible, then it would be doable. I mean, it couldn't be invisible, obviously, because then a lot of people would get ripped off because like some people would use stuff until it was about to break, then try to sell it, and that would be terrible. But I just worry that like 5, 10 years from now, there's just like there's so many majestic horses because they never die, they never grow old, and they can't die in combat, that like they just don't really become, they're not as special anymore, and maybe even all the
There's
horses under them just never get purchased anymore.
there's always, I mean, there's always a way to add cool, amazing new things into a game
Hmm.
that require a great number of something previous in
Hmm.
order to create or craft.
True.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of how you build, value in things even lower on the chain. If we start talking about amazing, grand war horses,
Hmm.
you still need hay to feed them,
Yeah.
or you still need, so you can always kind of have something grow. And I think that's what Mirandus is going to be. I'm trying to get to, and the team's trying to get to, something you guys can have in your hands, and play, and we can always just extend it and grow the world and grow the world and grow the world. And along with that will come new cool crafts, new things for you to do, new awesome upgrades,
Hmm.
new trophies, new loot, new. So there's really no state where, unless you totally screw up your game, that you hit an apex moment that could never, where nothing ever will be better after it. I mean, that would
Hmm.
suck. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I played Mirandus for 3 days and I saw the most amazing stuff ever and I
Yeah.
owned it. And
Hmm.
that's it. That's the end of the game.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
there's always another kind of tier that you can layer on. And I think, to me, that's the awesome part of
Hmm.
leveling up. That's the awesome part of, getting to acquire something new and powerful
Yeah.
that lets you push deeper into the world of
Hmm.
Mirandus now.
Uh,
Now,
okay. I want to
yeah, go
ask
ahead.
one final question here because our time is up, but this one I feel like is really, really important. So I feel like one of the biggest threats just to play to earn games in general is botting. And I think that's a really big threat to player owned economies. So does Gala Games have any plans to ensure that bots cannot ruin the Mirandus economy for the players by just like over farming stuff? And like, is there going to be any like, I don't know your user verification, or like, I don't know, like having to show an ID or something, prove you're a real person and can't just run 1,000 accounts?
There's quite a bit of pushback built into the system already to get into the world of Mirandus. Like,
Hmm.
you have to have, I mean, for the immediate future, you have to have an exemplar to play, period.
Hmm.
We're going to open that up later, but so if you're going to run 1,000 bots, and again, it's a blockchain game, right? So you're going to run 1,000 bots. That means you're going to make 1,000 accounts.
Hmm.
You're going to buy something in the store. You're going to agree to the terms of service. You're going to get into Mirandus.
Hmm.
You got this concept of a wallet in Mirandus, which is you, right? I mean, I feel like we're really spending a lot of time on figuring out exactly what an avatar is technically,
Hmm.
such that their gear and everything can come with them. Same thing with a building, or a deed. It's like, that's quite a barrier to entry to have 1,000 of those spun up, and then you get in the
Yeah.
game and it's full 3D. Like, what information is the bot employing to maneuver
Yeah.
around
I,
that world and not die effectively?
I feel like the
Now, when you
incentives
have,
are so strong. Sorry, I'll let you
oh,
share
I
that.
mean, now I will say this, right? I think the incentives are going to be very strong, and will people be spinning up guilds and guilds of people who are out there, in the world, harvesting stuff like crazy to try to manipulate the market or own or control the resource in some way?
Hmm.
Is that going to happen? I mean, that seems kind of likely.
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Like, I mean, I think there's going to be
Yeah.
mining guilds of dwarves,
Hmm.
you know, and if a player comes in the game, it's not impossible that it's like, oh, I see you're a dwarf, or I see you probably want to be a part of our guild. We control most of the mining in this, the western region of Mirandus, and
Hmm.
does that make the game worse?
No, no. I think what would make the game worse is
I don't
someone
know.
who would like who's not actually playing and just like
Yeah.
he found out how to design some kind of algorithm or something to just go mine and bring it back, and then all of a sudden it's flooded and it's kind of valueless for a real player to mine it because there's just so many bots mining it.
I, I mean, we have some pretty amazing engineers, and I think besides the barrier to entry of getting into a bot and then programming your bot in
Hmm.
3D based on the information the client has to go out and do that, plus the detection system that we would probably put in place. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't think bots running around the 3D world of Mirandus is going to be that great of a challenge. I feel like we could identify that.
Cool.
I feel
Well,
like we could identify that happening.
that's
But
good
I
to
do
hear.
think people are going to be banding together to try to manipulate
Yeah.
the market or
Well,
more
which is
research.
I think is fine. That's part of the game. That's really fun. Uh,
It's part of the world, right?
mhm.
I mean, it's for better or for worse. I mean, no one's going to sell anything for more than what people are buying it for.
Mhm.
The market will just kind of take over,
Yeah.
I think, a little bit. But
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining me for this interview. I don't want to keep you too late for your other meeting, but this was so fun talking to you. I am so excited for this game. Of all the blockchain games that have been announced and are being developed right now, and I'm excited for many of them, Mirandus is by far the one I've personally
oh,
invested the most
cool.
into because I am just so excited. I love the idea of a medieval fantasy world. I love the idea of a classic MMO, and I love the idea of this real economy that's player owned, and it just like ticks every single box. I love the team that's behind Mirandus. I love you and Gala Games. I feel like there's just so much experience there. So yeah, I am so bullish on this project and so excited for it.
Oh,
So
thank you so much, Jake. Well,
yeah.
I mean, we are so behind it, and we're
Mhm.
so excited by it, and this is a dream come true for us to be able to develop.
Mhm.
And so I can't say enough good things about it. Thank you, man, and thank you to our whole community
Yeah.
who are going to be here side by side as we continue to put more pieces together and
Yep.
really go for it. So
That's
I'm glad you
cool.
guys love the vision, and
Yep.
thank you.
If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to leave a big thumbs up on the video on your way out, but also make sure you guys join Gala Games Discord server so that you can stay up to date with all the Mirandus updates as they start sharing more. You can also subscribe to Gala Games YouTube channel. It's linked in the description as well. Is there anywhere where people can follow you directly, Michael?
No, I mean, Discord, the Gala Discord is probably going to be the best. I don't,
Hmm.
you know, there's no digital me out there really
Hmm.
so much. It's more
Yeah.
just me.
Uh-huh. You're
We're
behind the
just
scenes creating the digital world. So yeah. All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Michael, and I hope that I can have you on again sometime in the future for more awesome sharing of what's happening with Mirandus. I cannot
absolutely.
wait
Yeah.
to jump in this game. It's gonna be so fun.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're going at it, dude. We're gonna try to go for it.
awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have fun roaming the metaverse.